You have prayed, waited, and hoped, yet your life still looks the same. What if the problem is not time, people, or even the devil? What if life only changes when alignment is enforced, not requested? There are laws governing results, and they do not respond to tears or wishes. Until you take responsibility, gain light, and act consistently, nothing moves. This message will show you why some people rise while others remain stuck. If you are ready to stop waiting and start enforcing change, listen carefully. Many people desire change, but very few understand that change does not respond to desire, it responds to force. Come, life does not move simply because you are tired of your present condition. Situations do not shift because you are emotional about your pain in this kingdom and even in life. Results are commanded by principles, not by sympathy. If your life must change, you must rise with understanding and take responsibility for enforcing that change. Come, there is a dangerous comfort in waiting. Waiting for time, waiting for people, waiting for luck, waiting for prophecy. Come, but time is neutral. It only amplifies what you consistently do. If you do nothing, time will help you remain the same. Come, transformation begins the moment a man decides that his current reality is unacceptable and takes deliberate action to align with higher laws. Every result you see in life is a report card of the principles you are currently obeying. Poverty, stagnation, confusion, and repeated failure are not mysteries. They are signals. They reveal misalignment. When alignment changes, outcomes are forced to follow. This is why knowledge is powerful. Light is not optional. Light is a weapon. Once you see, you cannot remain the same. Ignorance is what gives limitations permission to stay. Prayer is one of the ways we force life to respond, but prayer without responsibility is noise. Prayer must be backed by discipline. You cannot pray for speed and live casually. You cannot pray for growth and reject instruction. You cannot pray for change and keep the same habits. The heaven responds when prayer is combined with obedience and action. Consistency is another force many people underestimate. Small, correct actions repeated daily are more powerful than occasional intense effort. Great destinies are not built by sudden bursts of motivation, but by disciplined alignment. When your actions agree with your prayers and your habits agree with your vision, change becomes inevitable. Finally, understand this: no power resists a man who has aligned with truth and refuses to stop. When you engage light, take responsibility, act consistently, and stay aligned spiritually and mentally, life has no choice. Doors will open. Systems will shift. Your environment will respond. You do not beg life to change. You force it by alignment, understanding, and unwavering obedience to higher principles. Change is not automatic because life is governed by laws, not emotions, and nothing truly shifts simply because a person is tired of their condition or frustrated with their current results. Many people assume that with time situations will naturally improve, but time itself has no power to alter outcomes unless it is partnered with understanding and deliberate alignment. If time alone could change a life, then everyone who has waited long enough would eventually succeed. Reality shows that many people remain in the same cycles for years. This reveals that change responds to something deeper than desire or patience. It responds to the conscious engagement of truth. Understanding is the first force that makes change possible, because what you do not understand, you cannot control. Life does not reward effort blindly. It rewards correct effort. A person may work very hard, pray sincerely, come and still remain stagnant because their actions are not aligned with the principles that govern the result they seek. When understanding comes, confusion lifts and direction becomes clear. Light exposes the reason behind results come. And once the reason is known, the power to change becomes available. This is why ignorance is not innocent. It is expensive because it keeps people investing energy in the wrong places. Alignment means bringing your thoughts, decisions, habits, and actions into agreement with the laws that control the outcome you desire. Without alignment, effort becomes wasted motion. You can desire growth, but if your daily choices contradict growth, stagnation will remain. You can desire peace, but if your environment and relationships are built on disorder, anxiety will persist. Change happens when a person intentionally adjusts their lifestyle to agree with higher principles. This adjustment is often uncomfortable because it requires letting go of familiar patterns. But discomfort is the price of transformation. Change must be enforced because life naturally resists disruption. Every system, whether spiritual, mental, or physical, prefers stability, even if that stability is painful. This is why people remain in unhealthy patterns long after they have recognized them. To break a cycle, intentional force is required, not violence, but disciplined insistence on a new way of living. This force is expressed through repeated right choices, even when emotions disagree. When a man consistently acts against his old patterns, the old structure eventually collapses. Responsibility is inseparable from enforced change. The moment a person accepts that their life is a reflection of their choices, power returns to them. Blame weakens the ability to change because it places control outside the self. As long as a person believes their condition is entirely caused by people's systems or circumstances, they remain passive. But when responsibility is embraced, even in difficult situations, authority is restored. Responsibility does not deny the existence of challenges, it simply refuses to surrender power to them. Alignment also requires patience because systems do not shift instantly. When new actions are introduced, there is often a delay before visible results appear. Many people abandon alignment too early, assuming nothing is happening. In reality, internal structures are being rearranged. Roots are growing before fruit appears. Those who understand this process remain consistent, knowing that change is already in motion, even when evidence is not yet visible. Ultimately, change is a response to sustained alignment with truth. Once understanding is gained and alignment is maintained, life has no option but to respond. Resistance may occur temporarily, but it cannot endure against consistency and light. This is why lasting transformation is not a miracle, it is a lawful outcome. When a person commits to understanding and refuses to compromise alignment, change stops being a possibility and becomes an inevitability. Responsibility is the price for transformation because no lasting change happens in a life where ownership is absent. Many people desire better results, yet they unconsciously reject the responsibility that produces those results. They want change without adjustment, progress without discipline, and elevation without accountability. But life is designed in such a way that authority follows responsibility. The moment a person refuses responsibility, they also surrender power, because only those who take ownership are permitted to enforce outcomes. One of the greatest enemies of transformation is blame. Blame may sound logical, especially when external factors are genuinely difficult, but it quietly paralyzes progress. When a person blames family background, government mentors, enemies, or circumstances, they shift the focus away from what they can control, even when those factors are real. Blaming them makes the individual powerless. Responsibility, on the other hand, restores authority. It says, even if I did not create this situation, I will take ownership of the solution. That mindset alone separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. Responsibility is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. It forces a person to examine their decisions, habits, and patterns honestly. Many people would rather believe that their problems are mysterious or spiritual attacks than accept that certain outcomes are the result of repeated choices. But growth begins with truth. When a person accepts responsibility, they stop asking who caused the problem and start asking what must change in them. That shift is the doorway to transformation. In the context of life, responsibility means understanding that results are not random. Every outcome is connected to a set of actions, reactions, and decisions. Financial struggle, emotional instability, lack of progress, and repeated failure are often signals, not punishments. They point to areas where responsibility has been avoided or delayed. When responsibility is embraced, clarity comes. The individual begins to see patterns, recognize errors, and identify adjustments that must be made. The responsibility also demands discipline. It is not enough to acknowledge what is wrong. Action must follow awareness. Many people are aware of what needs to change, but are unwilling to do the work required. They want transformation to be instant and painless, but responsibility requires consistency. It requires waking up daily and choosing alignment over comfort. It requires doing what is necessary even when motivation is absent. This is why few people experience deep transformation, not because change is impossible, but because responsibility is costly. Another aspect of responsibility is stewardship. Whatever has been given to a person, time, knowledge, opportunities, relationships, must be managed intentionally. Neglecting what is already in one's hands disqualifies a person from greater outcomes. Responsibility asks, what have you done with what you already know? Transformation does not begin with receiving more. It begins with managing better. When stewardship improves, growth naturally follows. Responsibility also involves learning. A responsible person is teachable. They recognize that they do not know everything and that ignorance is not a weakness, but a gap that can be filled. Instead of defending their current position, they pursue understanding. They read, listen, observe, and apply. This posture accelerates transformation because it keeps the person aligned with light. Pride resists responsibility, but humility attracts it. There is also a spiritual dimension to responsibility. Prayer without responsibility becomes an escape rather than a force. True spiritual growth demands alignment between prayer and practice. A person cannot genuinely seek change while refusing correction. Responsibility ensures that spiritual activities translate into practical outcomes. It bridges the gap between belief and results. Ultimately, transformation respects responsibility because responsibility proves readiness. Life entrusts change to those who can manage it. When a person consistently accepts responsibility for their actions, their choices, and growth, transformation stops being a struggle and becomes a process already in motion. Spiritual laws respond to intentional actions, not wishes, because the universe is structured to reward alignment rather than emotion. Desire alone has never been sufficient to produce change. Many people sincerely want better lives, greater impact, peace, or growth, but sincerity without strategy remains ineffective. In the same way that gravity does not suspend itself because someone hopes to fly, spiritual and life laws do not bend because someone feels strongly. Laws are impersonal, consistent, and predictable, and they respond only when the required conditions are met. Intentional action is what activates these laws. Action is the language laws understand. You may believe deeply, speak positively, and imagine a better future. But if your actions do not match the principles governing that future, nothing moves. This is why two people can pray the same prayers, hear the same truths, and yet experience completely different outcomes. One aligns intentionally with the demands of the law, while the other merely hopes the law will make an exception. Wishes are passive by nature. They require nothing from the individual beyond emotion. Intentional actions, however, demand clarity, discipline, and sacrifice. They require a person to study the laws governing a desired outcome and then deliberately structure their life to obey those laws. For example, growth responds to learning, consistency, and correction. Influence responds to value, service, and credibility. Stability responds to order, discipline, and wise decision making. These outcomes are not spiritual mysteries. They are lawful responses. One of the reasons people struggle with this truth is because intentional action removes the comfort of illusion. It exposes the gap between what a person wants and what they are willing to do. Many prefer to spiritualize outcomes because it allows them to remain unchanged while expecting change. But spiritual laws are not manipulated by language. They are activated by alignment. When alignment is absent, repetition of words becomes noise. Intentional action also requires focus. Laws respond to precision, not scattered effort. A person who desires change but acts inconsistently sends mixed signals into the system. One day aligned, the next day careless. One season disciplined, the next season distracted. Laws do not reward occasional obedience. They respond to patterns. When actions become consistent, outcomes become predictable. This is why mastery in any area is rare. It is not because laws are unfair, but because few people maintain intentional alignment long enough. Another important aspect of intentional action is timing. Laws do not respond instantly, but they always respond accurately. There is often a delay between action and manifestation. This delay tests seriousness. Many abandon alignment prematurely because they expect immediate feedback. But laws work beneath the surface before they show results. Roots grow before fruit appears. Those who understand this remain committed even when nothing seems to be happening. Intentional action also exposes responsibility. Once you accept that laws respond to actions, excuses lose power. You can no longer attribute outcomes entirely to luck, people, or circumstances. While external factors exist, they do not override laws. Two people can face the same environment and experience different results because their responses are different. Laws reward response, not environment. In spiritual matters, intentional action includes obedience to instruction. Revelation without application produces no change. Light only becomes power when it is acted upon. This is why exposure to truth alone does not transform people. Transformation happens when truth is converted into practice. Knowledge that remains theoretical has no authority in the system. Intentional action also requires endurance. Laws do not negotiate with emotions. Whether you are tired, discouraged, or confident, the requirement remains the same. Come. This is why discipline is more powerful than motivation. Motivation fluctuates, but discipline sustains alignment. When discipline governs action, laws respond consistently. The moment a person shifts from wishing to acting, from hoping to aligning, from speaking to practicing, life begins to adjust. Systems reorganize around consistent intent. Resistance weakens, patterns change, and outcomes follow the direction of sustained action. Consistency in right actions compels results, because life is designed to respond to patterns, not isolated events. A single correct decision is valuable, but it is repetition that gives that decision power. Many people underestimate consistency because it appears ordinary and slow, yet it is one of the most unstoppable forces governing progress. When an action is repeated in alignment with truth, it stops being an effort and becomes a system, and systems always produce predictable outcomes. Right actions are those that agree with principles, not moods. They are actions rooted in understanding rather than impulse. A person may do the right thing once out of inspiration, but inspiration fades. Consistency requires something deeper than excitement. It requires commitment. This is why many people start well but do not finish strong. They rely on motivation instead of structure. Motivation fluctuates, but structure sustains behavior. When structure is established, right actions continue even on days when emotions are absent. Consistency rewires the mind and reshapes identity. What you repeatedly do eventually becomes who you are. When a person consistently chooses discipline over convenience, growth over comfort, and alignment over ease, those choices form a new internal framework. But this internal change is critical because external results are often delayed before life changes outwardly. The person must change inwardly. Consistent right actions rebuild thinking patterns, emotional responses, and decision-making processes. This internal transformation prepares the ground for visible outcomes. Life also uses consistency as a test of sincerity. Many people claim they want change, but their inconsistency reveals otherwise. Laws respond to proof, not promises. When actions are consistent, they demonstrate seriousness. This is why opportunities, favor, and breakthroughs often come to those who have been faithful in hidden, repetitive work. Consistency signals readiness. It shows that the individual can be trusted with growth because they can sustain it. Another reason consistency compels results is that it neutralizes resistance. Every new action faces opposition, both internal and external. Old habits resist replacement. Environments resist change, but resistance weakens when confronted repeatedly. What feels difficult at first becomes easier with repetition. The mind stops fighting what it sees as permanent. When consistency is maintained, resistance gives way and momentum takes over. Consistency also creates momentum. Momentum reduces effort over time. The first steps of alignment are usually the hardest, but once momentum is established, progress accelerates. Many people quit just before momentum begins. They misinterpret early difficulty as failure, not realizing that difficulty is part of the transition. Those who endure the initial phase eventually experience ease, not because the law changed, but because they did. Right actions must also be maintained across seasons. Consistency is not about intensity in one season and neglect in another. It is about maintaining alignment regardless of circumstances. When actions remain correct during discouragement, delay, and pressure, they gain authority. life responds differently to those who remain aligned under strain. This level of consistency separates casual participants from committed builders. Consistency also sharpens discernment. Repeated engagement with right actions increases sensitivity to error. The more a person practices alignment, the quicker they recognize deviation. This reduces damage and keeps progress steady. Inconsistency, on the other hand, dulls discernment. When alignment is occasional, error goes unnoticed and cycles repeat. Another powerful effect of consistency is trust. People, systems, and even opportunities respond to reliability. A consistent person attracts confidence. Their words carry weight because their actions have history. This credibility opens doors that talent alone cannot. Inconsistency undermines trust and delays results. Even when ability is present, over time, consistency removes the need for force. What once required effort becomes natural. Discipline turns into lifestyle. Alignment becomes instinct. At this stage, results are no longer chased. They emerge as a natural consequence of who the person has become. This is why consistency in right actions is not just a method for change. It is the engine that makes transformation unavoidable. Light, which can be understood as revelation and accurate understanding, is the foundation of lasting change, because nothing in life truly transforms beyond the level of clarity a person possesses. Change that is not built on light is temporary, because it is driven by pressure, fear, or emotion rather than truth. When the pressure is removed or emotions settle, the person returns to old patterns. Light, however, produces internal conviction. And conviction sustains change even when no one is watching and nothing is forcing compliance. Revelation brings awareness, and an awareness dismantles deception. Many people live in cycles not because they are weak, but because they are blind to the real causes of their outcomes. They fight symptoms instead of roots. They address results instead of systems. Light exposes the real issues behind repeated failure, stagnation, and frustration. When a person finally sees correctly, they stop wasting energy on irrelevant battles and begin to focus on what truly matters. This redirection alone can save years of struggle. Lasting change requires understanding, because behavior flows from perception. You cannot consistently act differently from how you see. If a person sees discipline as punishment, they will avoid it. If they see correction as rejection, they will resist it. But when light reframes these things as tools for growth, behavior naturally changes. Revelation does not force action. It makes right action reasonable. Once the mind agrees, the body follows. Light also removes fear, which is a major reason people resist change. Fear thrives in ignorance. The unknown feels threatening, so people cling to familiar pain rather than risk unfamiliar improvement. Revelation replaces fear with clarity. When a person understands the process, the cost, and the outcome, courage increases. They may still feel discomfort, but they are no longer paralyzed. Light gives confidence because it reveals direction. Another reason light sustains change is that it produces personal ownership. When a person changes because someone pressured them, they are borrowing motivation. But when change is born from revelation, it becomes personal. The individual understands why the change is necessary and what is at stake if it is not maintained. This understanding that creates internal accountability. Even when external supervision is absent, the person remains aligned because they know the consequences of deviation. Light also exposes options. Many people remain stuck because they believe there are no alternatives. They think their condition is permanent or unavoidable. Revelation reveals choices. It shows that different decisions produce different outcomes. This awareness restores hope, not as wishful thinking, but as informed expectation. Once a person sees that another path exists, stagnation loses its grip. In spiritual and personal growth, light precedes authority. You cannot command what you do not understand. This is why repeated effort without understanding often leads to exhaustion. People try harder instead of seeing clearer. But once light comes, effort becomes targeted. Energy is invested wisely. Progress becomes efficient. The same effort that once produced little now produces much, because it is guided by truth. Light also protects progress. Without revelation, even when change begins, it is easily sabotaged. A person may make progress and then unknowingly reintroduce habits, relationships, or patterns that undo their work. Revelation increases discernment. It sharpens awareness of what supports growth and what threatens it. This discernment helps maintain boundaries that preserve transformation. Another critical role of light is that it aligns expectation with reality. Unrealistic expectations cause many people to abandon change prematurely. Revelation teaches process. It shows that growth is gradual, resistance is normal, and delays are part of development. With this understanding, discouragement loses power. The person remains consistent because they are not shocked by challenges. They understand that difficulty does not mean failure. Light also multiplies itself. Once a person begins to walk in revelation, they become more sensitive to truth. Learning accelerates. Correction is received faster. Adjustment becomes easier. This creates an upward cycle where understanding increases, alignment improves, and results follow more quickly. In contrast, ignorance compounds problems because mistakes are repeated unknowingly. Ultimately, lasting change rests on light because truth is stable, emotions fluctuate, motivation fades, and circumstances change, but revelation remains. When a person builds their life on understanding, change is no longer something they struggle to maintain. It becomes the natural outcome of seeing rightly and responding wisely. Prayer, discipline, and obedience are tools to force alignment, because alignment does not happen accidentally, that it is established through intentional spiritual and practical engagement. These three elements work together to bring a person's inner life and outward actions into agreement with higher laws. When alignment is present, change is no longer resisted by life because the individual is functioning within the framework that produces results. Prayer is the first tool because it repositions the heart and the mind. True prayer is not merely a request for outcomes. It is a process of adjustment. In prayer, distractions are silenced, motives are examined, and perspective is corrected. Prayer brings a person into awareness of what must change internally before external change can be sustained. It realigns desire with purpose and removes the noise that often drives wrong decisions. Without prayer, actions may be energetic but misdirected. Prayer ensures that effort is aimed at the right target. Prayer also strengthens spiritual sensitivity. Many people fail not because they lack effort, but because they lack discernment. They act blindly. Prayer sharpens perception, helping a person recognize timing, priorities, and boundaries. It reveals when to move, when to wait, and when to adjust. This sensitivity prevents wasted effort and unnecessary conflict. Through prayer, a person learns to respond rather than react, which is essential for lasting alignment. Discipline is the structure that turns prayer into results. While prayer aligns intention, discipline aligns behavior. It is the daily commitment to act in agreement with what has been revealed. Discipline does not depend on feelings. It depends on decision. Many people pray sincerely but live casually. This contradiction weakens alignment. Come, discipline bridges the gap between spiritual conviction and physical practice. Come, it ensures that what is believed is consistently expressed through action. Discipline also protects focus. In a world filled with distractions, consistency requires restraint. Discipline says no to what is unnecessary so that energy can be invested where it matters. That it establishes routines that reinforce alignment, such as study, reflection, planning, and rest. These routines create stability, and stability allows growth to occur without collapse. Without discipline, progress is fragile and easily disrupted. Obedience is the highest expression of alignment because it involves trust. Obedience means acting on instruction, even when understanding is incomplete or comfort is threatened. Many people prefer agreement to obedience. They obey only what feels logical or convenient. But growth often requires actions that stretch comfort and challenge existing beliefs. Obedience proves surrender to truth rather than attachment to preference. Obedience also accelerates transformation because it bypasses endless analysis. Some people delay change by overthinking. They want complete certainty before acting. Obedience acts on clarity, not certainty. When instruction is clear, action follows. This responsiveness keeps momentum alive. Life responds quickly to those who respond quickly to truth. These three tools reinforce each other. Prayer without discipline leads to spiritual talk without results. Discipline without prayer leads to effort without direction. Obedience without prayer and discipline becomes mechanical and unsustainable. But when prayer aligns the heart, discipline structures the life, and obedience releases action, alignment becomes strong and continuous. Another important role of these tools is resistance management. Change attracts opposition, both internally and externally. Prayer provides strength to endure pressure. Discipline maintains consistency under strain. Obedience keeps progress moving even when resistance intensifies. Together, they form a system that outlasts discouragement. Prayer, discipline, and obedience also mature the individual. They build character, not just outcomes. Character is important because growth without maturity leads to collapse. Alignment ensures that when change comes, the person can sustain it. This is why these tools are not shortcuts, they are foundations. As these tools are practiced consistently, alignment becomes internalized. What once required effort becomes instinctive. The person no longer struggles to choose right actions, they naturally incline toward them. At this stage, change is no longer forced through struggle, but maintained through identity. Life responds not to occasional effort, but to the person you have become through sustained alignment. True change is not a product of chance, emotion, or time. It is the result of alignment with higher laws and the courage to enforce that alignment consistently. A life only changes when a person takes responsibility, gains understanding, and refuses to remain casual about their growth. When ignorance is replaced with light, wishing is replaced with intentional action, and inconsistency is replaced with disciplined obedience, the transformation becomes inevitable. Prayer aligns the heart, discipline orders the life, and obedience releases movement, creating a system that life must respond to. At that point, change is no longer something you hope for or wait for. It becomes the natural outcome of living in truth and consistency.